building an Asia-Pacific community with a shared future with other regional countries. The Jakarta-Bandung high-speed railway and the Karot hydropower projects you mentioned are both the hallmark projects of the high-quality Belt and Road cooperation between China and relevant countries. They will give a strong boost to local socio-economic development after completion. Throughout the process of advancing relevant projects, China has always focused on development and cooperation, kept in mind the benefits of people in these countries, and respected the development needs and independence of relevant countries. We have always acted upon the vision of win-win cooperation, openness, and inclusiveness. We have been committed to equal consultation on the basis of mutual benefit and sought to form synergy for relevant cooperation and complement each other with our comparative strength. We have never pursued political agenda in the name of promoting economic cooperation. Still less will we put China before anything else or force other countries to choose sides. In the wake of the earthquake in Afghanistan and the economic difficulties in Sri Lanka, China has done its best to help and put credibility, the greater good, and sincerity first. For we believe this is the way how neighbors should treat each other. Just as State Councilor Wang Yi pointed out in his speech at the ASEAN Secretariat not long ago, the friendly cooperation between China and its neighbors and other countries in the Asia-Pacific has been able to keep advancing steadily and make accelerating progress because China has always upheld the concept of peaceful coexistence, the goal of development and rejuvenation, the principle of independence, and the spirit of openness and inclusiveness. This is an embodiment of the Oriental wisdom and Asian strength. Also, it is an important contribution to global economic recovery and growth. Next question, please. Xinhua News Agency. It is reported that the 10th Review Conference of the NPT will be held in New York in August. Will China attend the conference? What outcomes would you like to see from the meeting? The 10th NPT Review Conference will be held from August 1st to the 26th at the UN headquarters in New York in an offline format. The Director General of the Department of Arms Control of China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs will head a delegation to the conference. The NPT is the cornerstone of international nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime and an integral component of the post-war international security architecture. The world is undergoing once-in-a-century changes and a pandemic at the same time and entering a stage of fluidity and turbulence. The global strategic security environment has been deteriorating. The international nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime is confronted with grim challenges. There's a deep divergence in the area of peaceful uses of nuclear energy. China hopes that all sides will take this conference as an opportunity to firmly uphold the universality, authority, and effectiveness of the NPT, advance in a balanced manner the three pillars of nuclear disarmament, non-proliferation, and peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and add new vigor to the NPT's role in serving peace and development. China has been actively implementing the Global Security Initiative, We are committed to the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security. We stand ready to work in concert with all parties for a successful and productive NPT review conference to improve global nuclear governance and uphold the international order underpinned by international law. At the same time, we will firmly safeguard the legitimate security and development interests and rights of China and the developing world. Next question, please. Macau Monthly.
Macau Monthly, a delegation of Japanese lawmakers led by former Defense Minister Shigeru Ishiba visited Taiwan and met with Tsai Ing-wen on the 28th. Ishiba said Japan must take on concrete responsibilities in the Asia-Pacific region, adding that we need to work together to reach consensus on this ahead of anything that could happen, and think ahead about what kind of situations could happen. What is China's response to that? Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. The Taiwan question, is China's internal affairs. China firmly opposes all forms of official interaction between the Taiwan region and countries having diplomatic ties with China. China urges the Japanese side to abide by the full political documents and its solemn commitments on the Taiwan question, properly handle the relevant issue, and stop sending wrong signals to the Taiwan independence forces. The TPP authorities of Taiwan try to hype up the political issue by soliciting external forces, but this attempt is doomed to fail. Next question, please.
From PTI.
印报托。在昨天中美两国元首通话之后，我们都看到了相关的消息稿。请问，从中方来看，这次对话的成果如何？达成了什么样的共识？特别是在台湾问题上达成了怎样的共识？
关于中美元首
On a phone conversation between Chinese and U.S. presidents, the Chinese side released a readout on it right after the dialogue. In their phone conversation, President Xi Jinping elaborated on China's principled position on the Taiwan question. China's position on opposing U.S.-Taiwan exchange is consistent and clear, and we have repeatedly made clear our position and attitude. As noted by President Xi Jinping, the three Sino-U.S. joint communiques embody the political commitments made by the two sides, and the One China principle is the political foundation for China-U.S. relations. China firmly opposes separatist moves toward Taiwan independence and interference by external forces. China never allows any room for Taiwan independence forces in whatever form. The position of the Chinese government and people on the Taiwan question is consistent and resolutely safeguarding China's national security, national sovereignty, and territorial integrity is the firm will of the more than 1.4 billion Chinese people. The public opinion cannot be defied. Those who play with fire will perish by it. It is hoped that the U.S. will be clear-eyed about this. The U.S. should honor the One China principle and implement the three joint communiques both in word and in deed. Next question, please. CCTV, I have a follow-up question on the phone call between the two presidents. We have noted that the White House press secretary said that President Joe Biden raised genocide and forced labor practices in Xinjiang during the call with President Xi. Can you confirm this? I can tell you that the allegations of genocide and forced labor in Xinjiang are pure lies. You said the White House press secretary claimed that genocide and forced labor came up in last night's call, and that too is disinformation. Next question, please.
Also a question on yesterday's talk. The Chinese side made clear its position on the Taiwan question, and the two sides agreed to keep the communication line open. But if Speaker Pelosi visited Taiwan, does China believe that the atmosphere or the environment for the two leaders to keep the talk going no longer exists?
刚才你的这个问题问得很好，中美。
That's a very good question. In a phone call, Chinese and U.S. presidents had a candid and in-depth communication and exchange on China-U.S. relations and issues of interest. The Chinese side has repeatedly made clear to the US side our serious concern over Speaker Pelosi's potential visit to Taiwan and our firm opposition to the visit. If the US side challenges our red line, it will be confronted with countermeasures. All possible consequences that may arise from this will be borne by the US side. Next question, please. China Daily. Former Australian Prime Minister Paul Keating openly criticized the U.S. House Speaker Pelosi's potential visit to Taiwan in a recent statement, saying that it would be foolish, dangerous, and unnecessary to any cause. If the situation is misjudged or mishandled, the outcome for the security, prosperity, and order of the region and the world would be catastrophic, he said to him in a comment. About Speaker Pelosi's potential visit to Taiwan, people with insight, both within and outside the U.S., have seen the real danger and spoken up as rational voices. We believe former Prime Minister Paul Keating's statement is one such example. We hope the U.S. side will see that clearly and take their point. Next question, please. Anything else?
Bloomberg 美方消息稿当中写道，双方工作层应该为两国元首进行线下沟通，做相关的工作。请问你可否证实这一点？什么时候两国元首将会进行线下的会晤？是否会在11月份 G20 峰会期间会晤？
我能告诉你的是，中美。
What I can tell you is that the two presidents agreed to stay in touch. They instructed the two teams to keep up communication and cooperation. Next question, please.
The response, I think.
我还想再追问一下，请问你可否证实一下，在两国元首通话当中是否提及了佩洛西可能访台的这一事情？
我刚才已经介绍了相关的情况。
I have just elaborated on the relevant situation. As you all know, this phone call was made against the background of a potential visit to Taiwan by Speaker Pelosi. Next question, please.
印报托，昨天有很多媒体都非常关注两国元首人通话以及佩洛西访台的这一事情。那么，请问双方是否谈及印太地区，以及两国之间有很多的问题？那么，你可否和我们提供更多的细节？双方都谈及了什么话题？以及达成了怎样的成果？
昨天晚上通话结束时已经是中国的深夜。
When the phone conversation concluded, it was very late last night, and we have put out a readout on that immediately. We have the readout in both Chinese and English. The two presidents had a candid communication and exchange on China-US relations and issues of interest. President Xi Jinping elaborated on China's principled position on the Taiwan question. He said that the two sides need to maintain communication at all levels and make good use of existing channels to promote bilateral cooperation. The two presidents also exchanged views on the global economic situation, and they agree that the two countries need to maintain communication on such important issues as coordinating macroeconomic policies, keeping global industrial and supply chains stable, and protecting global energy and food security. President Xi stressed that attempts at decoupling or severing supply chains in defiance of the underlying laws will not help boost the U.S. economy. They would only make the world economy more vulnerable. The two sides need to work for de-escalation of regional hotspots, help rid the world of COVID-19 as early as possible, reduce the risk of stagflation and recession, and uphold the international system centering on the UN and the international order underpinned by international law. The two presidents exchanged views on issues including the Ukraine crisis, You may refer to the readout released by the Chinese side for more specifics. Next question, please.
.关于长征5号末级一个问题，它现在还没有返回地球。那么，请问，什么时候中方预计这个残骸会返回地球？
回答。
I took a similar question the other day. I elaborated on the relevant situation and also China's position. I don't have anything more to add on top of that. Relevant teams in China are monitoring the situation very closely. Next question, please.
请问，据报道，86日，英国谢菲尔德哈勒姆大学海伦娜·肯尼迪中心发布报告，再次炒作所谓新疆人权问题。请问发言人对此有何评论？谢谢。
The Helena Kennedy Center of the Sheffield Hallam University issued a report on the so-called human rights issue in China. Do you have any response? The relevant institution you mentioned has released multiple reports on Xinjiang. The authors of those reports have reportedly received large sums of funds from relevant institutions on the US side, and some of the authors are linked to terrorist groups. The sponsor of the Helena Kennedy Center is the founder of an anti-China extremist political group. The allegations of forced labor in the report are seriously flawed. They cannot stand fact check, and they are refuted by relevant people concerned. The Helena Kennedy Center act as a vanguard of anti-China forces in the name of pursuing scholarship studies, and this is disgraceful. Next question, please. That's all for today. Thank you for coming and wish you a nice weekend.